Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. Today on the Develop Yourself podcast, I'm speaking with a good friend of mine that you may recognize from the show, Zubin. We're going to be talking about coding boot camps because recently we had a little offline discussion, kind of a touchy subject, since I kind of own one. Parsity. I own a coding boot camp, and we're starting to talk about if they're still effective. Are coding boot camps the right thing? So we were talking about these and thinking, is this model essentially dead? And Zubin, you have a pretty amazing story. You went to a coding boot camp, dropped out of the coding boot camp, ended up working for Google. Very roundabout way into tech. So what made you get into a boot camp? You wanted to switch careers. You were a lawyer. What made you look at a program, go to a boot camp and say, nah, you know what? I don't need this.
Let's put this in context. This was 2018. Okay. I was a 37-year-old, lawyer. 2018 is a long time ago. It's 7 years ago. It's almost a decade ago. It's a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
And back, especially in tech. And, and this world just moves so fast these days. But back then I was still very much, a recovering lawyer, as I call myself. I had an MBA and all that, but I had zero tech qualifications or skill. I didn't really know how to code. I'd learned a bit to keep my startup alive, and that failed. And I was looking, just like everybody else does, for the surefire way. And that was the mistake. I was looking for a well-trodden path that would, according to the marketing, take me there. And I left my family here in Australia and I moved to San Francisco for 3.5 months. I borrowed almost $50,000 to do this against my mortgage. Okay.
Wow.
And the cost of the boot camp was what, 17 grand or what? Like, it was a top tier one. I won't name them.
Okay.
And I was there for about, and accommodation in San Francisco is expensive. So it was a big risk and a big move. I'd lost a lot of money in the start. Anyway, I was there for about a week and I was surrounded by all these, mid-20s, nothing wrong with that. But my instructors, my peers, the people I was meeting were not really career changers. They were, I guess they kind of were, like they were starting out and they weren't sure. And so they were hopping around a bit. But I was 37. I had 15 years behind me. It was a different ballgame. And I'm like, learning the technical stuff is not the hardest part because ultimately, I don't know, Python is Python no matter who writes it. What's really hard is getting the opportunities, convincing the market that doesn't want you there to hire you. That's the hard part, right? And so after a week and a half, I'm like, none of these people have changed career. None of these people have interviewed. None of these people have actually jumped from a really established career, taking the risk of changing everything in their life. So what can they actually teach me that I cannot learn off a textbook? And that was a big question. Like the coding stuff is not the hard part. And so I quit. I lost a lot of money. I lost about 11 grand and came back to Australia. And then I got myself a non-technical coach who basically coached me on all the changes I needed to make, Brian, before I can become the sort of person that's effective in the marketplace, right? And the technical stuff I had to figure out for myself. And I did have a few friends who sort of guided me through it. But I was really lucky because I had a strong reputation and a great track record in other careers. So people were willing to take a chance on me. And that's when I realized most people don't have that, right? And they fall for the marketing and the jump in. So that's why I sort of came in with the anti-bootcamp concept, because it's a different thing when you're 25. It's a different thing when you're over 30. Like the risk is greater, your obligations are greater, your time is less, and this marketing is worse. And now this is 7 years, 8 years on, the whole market's changed, man. You know how it is. Like even the way interviewing is done is different now. Everything's different. Right? And we can't use the 2010 model, which is where bootcamps came out from, 2010 to 2012. That was the time Instagram was created. Like that was a different world. The model has to be updated.
I like what you're saying a lot. It's even why I've kind of shied away, and I don't even like the bootcamp name. It's why I don't usually refer to Parsity as a bootcamp. And to be honest, I do it for marketing purposes because I know that that's what people are looking for. But really what I'm selling, what I want to help people with is career change, as you so eloquently put it, right? Like anybody can kind of learn how to sling some code together in some way, but it's so much more than that. Your interview is not going to center around how fast you can solve some algorithm. If that was the case, then competitive programmers would be in all the jobs at Google.
100%.
And none of us
in fact, when I
would
was
be able to get hired.
One thing, great
Yeah.
you said that, Brian. So when I was at Google, I also trained to do the interviews, and I did a bunch of interviews on the interviewing side, so on the hiring side, because that's important to me. I've always wanted to do that in every industry I've been in. And a lot of the competitive programmers who smashed the DSA didn't actually make it in because they weren't hitting all the other requirements in the matrix of requirements, right?
Yeah.
Like that, it's like saying the only thing I need to make a great bread is flour. No, it's not. It's
That's a
important.
good
You can't do
analogy.
without
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not the only thing. You've got to put the recipe, you've got to have the right heat, water, yeast, salt, all of that, in the right
Totally.
quantities at the right time. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you raised that. Yeah.
For sure. And I have a bit of a confession. I went to a boot camp as well. I often tell people that I'm self-taught, which is not entirely true. I don't know how I feel about the whole self-taught thing. We'll discuss that later. So I'm curious to hear your take on that. But I used to tell people I was self-taught, but I did go to a coding boot camp, in fact, after I'd already learned quite a lot of coding on my own. I went to the boot camp and they didn't really teach me anything new per se. They helped fill in a few gaps. But what they really did, which was really important for me at least, was they gave me the confidence to say, you should apply right now. And I thought, there's zero way I'm ready. And when they forced me to do that, I
100%.
got hired 8 weeks into that coding boot camp. And the only really thing they did was push me to apply. And that was the huge pivot that I needed. That was the big unlock there.
Yeah.
So I see how powerful they can be because I was with a group of people and I saw all of our lives change. Like we all came from very, the quote unquote non-traditional background. Basically, none of us were computer science majors. One guy went to high school, didn't go to college at all. And I think he's like a director of engineering somewhere. The other person's a senior somewhere. We've all gone on to have pretty decent careers overall.
Yeah.
But I know that for every
Yeah.
one of us, there's a ton of people that don't get that result. And I think a lot about that. And I think that initially boot camps resonated with a lot of people, like career switchers like me and you. And now they've blown up. And you're right, like 2013 was an interesting time, or 2010, like the 2013 period was very interesting. And you had significantly less people going into these boot camps. Now you have boot camps where all they've all been bought up and they churn
Yeah.
out tens of thousands of people. Like,
Absolutely.
when did that change happen, do you think? Like when did you start noticing that change in the quality and the general approach of coding boot camps?
So I noticed that again around the time that I went to boot camps. So this is what happens in every industry. Now, again, I had an advantage because I've been in other industries before as they matured, right? So I started law school in the late 90s before Google was public. Okay, that gives you a sense of my age. I'm 43 years old now. 2010, 2012 was a period when online education as a whole was starting out. Okay, MOOCs, massively open online colleges and courses, starting 2010 to 2012. That's when Coursera came out. That's when edX came out, right? And if you look at the history of their adoption graph, it goes like this, and then it's like that, and it's a bit of an S. It flattens out. And every industry, from aviation to law to MBAs, has always gone through that period of huge growth. Now, what happens when there's huge growth is what's known as market consolidation, which is the entrepreneurs who create the products in that time want to sell, want to exit. And so all they want to do is increase their numbers to be a financially attractive acquisition target. So that started happening in the middle of the previous decade, 2015, 2016, when people realized, hang on, this is a better alternative. Keep in mind, the tech market was also really booming. So again, 2010, 2011, 2012, Uber, Dropbox, Instagram, all these things started then, right? The iPhone 2 came out. It was a period of such big change that technology was booming, and that tide lifted the demand for developers. And at that point of time, anybody who could code was getting opportunities, which is what happens in every industry. Okay. Every industry in the history of mankind, anybody who can do the new thing gets snapped up early. And 10 years later, the bar is so high that people find it hard to get in because it matures. Everyone gets better, right? And so even Google interviewing 25 years ago was easier than it is now. The bar keeps rising, right? That's just how industries are. So these guys, all the boot camps, were onto something, a bit of a rocket ship. It grew and they realized, hang on, we could actually sell and make money out of this. And nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But that's when the incentives, Brian, diverged. Because when you start to grow something and it starts to look like a college where everybody's cookie cutter, everything is standardized, nothing is personalized to the individual, you can enroll more numbers, right? And you can get them to learn to code, but they're no longer market competitive because they're all the same. And you end up choosing for people who can enroll in your bootcamp, not for people who really want the job, right? There are people who can't enroll in the bootcamp, but who really want to make the change, but they can't give up their job for 4 months and give up their income and abandon their kids. They can't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you ignore that segment of the market. And that was the segment I was in. I tried to do the full-time bootcamp thing and I realized this is a giant risk and a waste of money. Plus, did I really want to change career while being unemployed? Or was it better that I was employed while changing career? Because from a hiring manager's point of view, I don't know. Do you want the unemployed person who's also changing career?
Yeah. That's
That's not a good look.
bargain. Yeah, for
Correct.
real.
It's too risky. That's why I quit the bootcamp thing, because I said in 2018, I'm like, I'm taking the bootcamp route because of its history, not because of its future ahead. And I could see the writing on the wall, right? I could see where the puck was going and I wanted to skate to it. That's why I quit. And that's why I think that's why I think your instinct is right about, well, bootcamp's not really the right principle. It's what we use to get the attention of people to understand how to think of it, but it's not it cannot be a bootcamp format anymore, because you need to individualize it to the person with kids, the person with dependent relatives, the person who's got a bad history of motivation, poor discipline, the person, or like in your case, Brian, you started with a lot of prior coding knowledge and the bootcamp pushed you over the edge in terms of the discipline of applying, which is a whole different skill set, right? You weren't starting from zero, man. Like you were starting from 40, 50, and you had to get 100. Yeah. A lot of people who come to me, and I'm sure who come to you as well, are starting at zero. What do they need? They're not going to start from the same level everybody else. They can't. It's not fair. They can't compete. Yeah. So that's how I think everything's changed.
Yeah, this is super solid points. And it's part of the reason why, like I said, I've shied away from that term in general. And I kind of think of more like mentees, mentor, rather than student, classroom. Because even when people come to me and talk about Parsity and say, well, when are the classes? I'm like, there are no classes. This is for people that are like me or you that don't have time to sit in 3 hours, 2 nights a week and go at some breakneck pace just to get another cohort in and then just kick you out the door. That's not my intention for many reasons. And it makes me think, if boot camps as they stand aren't the unlock, they're not the likely answer for most career changers.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the classes thing. I had a really powerful insight when I was in executive management, before I switched to the law, before I switched to coding, where I noticed all the CEOs and the executive directors, the next level down to the CEOs, not all of them had MBAs. Okay, so not all of them had the formal qualifications, but 100% of them got personally coached. Okay, and that's when I realized they weren't going to classes. That's not what they were doing. Michael Jordan wasn't at the peak of his career going to classes. He had a coach, right? And I started to think, hang on, why are these top performers, why are the presidents of the US, why are the CEOs of top companies not doing classes? Because classes is what works when you're in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. After that, to really get to that elite level of performance, you need someone to know you, not the course material. They need to know you, and they need to tailor it to who you are, because you've got to change. Right? To go from 100 to 110 and be really cutting edge, the world doesn't change. You've got to change first. And that's why I think personal coaching is the answer. Is most people will need to adapt themselves to become the sort of persons to achieve their next goal, especially if it's career change. Learning to code, easier. Career change, you've got to be a different sort of person. You've got to learn multiple skills. It's closer to startup, to be honest. If I hadn't done the startup thing, I don't think I would have succeeded in the career change, because it taught me more about launching a new product in a competitive market, which is exactly what career change is. You're launching yourself in a competitive market where you have no credentials, right? That mental model shift helped me change career, not the learning to code stuff. That was just table stakes.
Yeah, learning to code. I liked your quote that you said last time on the show. I've been thinking about it ever since. It's like learning to code is the ticket to the dance. Yeah. And I think about that more and more now. I just went through a round of interviews, and my interview consisted of a little bit of a coding challenge, which I actually didn't pass. I'm still getting close to an offer despite not nailing the coding challenge. It's based on system design. Yeah, right. It's going to happen. I've failed more interviews than I've passed, but I've also
we all have.
not totally crushed a bunch of them, but I've gotten offers based on either the way I thought through the problem or the follow-up or all sorts of other factors outside of like how fast could you like traverse a tree or whatever, how fast could you solve this random problem.
On this.
And these things just become increasingly less important now, I think, especially with the rise of AI and people, one, cheating on stuff and just knowing that you can offload some of these more menial, trivial tasks to a robot. But yeah, I think there's a whole other world of things that you're going to need to do, especially the piece of the part about who are you before you even join the boot camp.
Yeah.
Do you have the kind of discipline to do this kind of thing? How do you go from watching TV every night, snacking on chips and not reading a book for years of your life? And the last time you did any formal education was in school, in high school or college, which may have been 10 years ago. And now you want to take on this really difficult task, but you're not prepared as the kind of person that you need to be, which is a huge aspect of it. Which maybe this is a good segue. We've been talking about how we kind of could address this problem. Should we just tell people what we're doing?
I'd love nothing more, Brian. I'd love nothing more.
Let's just tell them what we're doing, man. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah. We've been talking for a while. So our hypothesis and my firm conviction now, based on the number of people I've impacted with the Future Coders program that I've been doing for the last several years, and based on the conversations you've had, and I know the transformations that you've got for your people, I think the answer going forward, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, because these things keep changing, is that we need to focus on the individual, not just the course material, right? There has to be a focus on the individual. And we need to give people the flexibility and the opportunity to first and foremost rebuild their learning muscle before they go into the learning stuff. So the reason why so many people fail is not because they're stupid and they're not good at math and all the rubbish myth out there. It's because they've forgotten how to learn. The average person that comes to me is in their 30s. They haven't been in a learning environment for 12 years, right, on average. And so to actually transform them. So what do? We're combining both of our structures and we're creating a highly individualized, basically completely customized pathway through the forest of failure that is career change, so that there is a walking trail for each individual based on where they're starting and where they're going. Now, I keep telling people, look, I live in Australia at the moment. For me, New York is kind of north and east, but it's not north and east for everybody. For Canadians, it's south, right? So there's no point saying New York is go this way for New York. You cannot tell someone how to get to New York unless you know their starting point. And then you need to know, well, what vehicle are you planning to operate to get there, right? Yeah. So we need to know these two things for every individual. Where are you starting from? And what constraints do you have at the moment that are likely to get in your way? Because we need to solve those problems first before we give you the learning material. Otherwise, we're going to give you the perfect recipe and you're not going to have the oven to bake the bread in, right? You're going to fail. So that's what we need to do. And that's pretty much what we're trying to do now. And it's a 1-year thing. Why is it 1 year? A lot of people are thinking, oh, I can do a boot camp in 3 months. Great. Go do that if you think that's what's going to happen. But if you think you're going to get competitive level, like beat the competition of established software engineers in a mature market, if you think you can beat them in 3 months, you are frankly delusional. You need a level of effort and consistency, which we can make easy for you, but you need to do the work to get good enough to beat the market and de-risk yourself in the eyes of the hiring manager. And that's what we're doing.
I mean, I was so happy when you brought this up to me, actually, because one of my goals, not only in the business, but in general, is to help as many people as possible to have this kind of change, to enjoy this kind of like massive, it's not only career change, like it's a life change. I mean, you probably know how much tech or getting into coding or becoming a software engineer has improved your life, maybe your finances, maybe just increased your happiness with your job, flexibility.
The flexibility, the joy is unbelievable.
That's the thing. It's like a job we're both still software engineers. We still work doing what we like to do, which is pretty amazing. And then to help people transition that. And that's part of the reason why I really wanted to pair with you, because I really want to meet people where they're at. Because I do see the future as being highly personalized. One of the issues, if I'm honest, with Parsity is that we have to have people that come in at a certain level, which means we turn away a lot of people. We say, unless you can pass this pretty difficult admissions challenge that lets us know you're at a baseline that we can help you at. Because if we just let anybody in through the door and said, you're going to go through this curriculum that we have, most people are going to fail.
Yeah,
and that's
100%.
the problem with most boot camps now. They just say, oh, do you have the money? then you're in. And now you're going to be in. We don't know if you know how to open up your file explorer. We don't even know if you know how to write a variable. But the first day you're going to come in with everybody else in this classroom and you're going to spend 3 hours here and we're going to get right to business and assume you know all these things. And they wonder why so many people fail, or they go in there thinking this is a get rich quick scheme. And they quickly learn that, oh no, I'm in way over my head.
It's not. It's not a get rich quick scheme. And the reason why I'm so excited to partner with you is, unlike most of the other people out there who are talking about, especially those who are selling coding courses. I mean, if you're good doing a coding course, just do a YouTube free one. Like, that's going to get you the same benefit at the end of the day. It's the same thing. JavaScript or Python is Python, no matter who does it, right? But the reason why I think you have such a profound impact on me and my, and my vision of the world is because you actually made the change in extraordinarily hard circumstances. You talked very publicly about this on your podcast. And again, you're proof that you've got to change before your results change. You cannot stretch and reach for your dreams unless you're a different person. You're a person who's capable of attaining those dreams. And we're not right now. Like, my dreams for 5 years from now, I'm not the person ready to achieve that. I've got to grow before I can achieve that, right? And you did that growth. Like, your story is so inspirational. And
Appreciate
I think, man, it's the truth. Like, and I think people make the mistake of turning to established coders because they think that's what becoming a coder is about. And I've always said, coders, the hardcore computer science guys who've never changed career but have been in coding a long time, gave me the worst advice I ever got in those 5 years. The worst advice. That's why I had a non-technical coach, because she had changed career. And I'm like, this is a game of changing career, not learning to code. Right. So, and you and I, we've changed career. We've had to transform ourselves before we can transform our careers. And we still work in the industry. So we still got our finger on the pulse. But most importantly, we're not offering something to people that we don't believe will be great for them. So I know my intake rate is less than 5%. Less than 5% of the people I speak to will be invited into the program, because the reality is a lot of people are just not ready, or I don't feel they're doing this for the right reasons. And I don't want to take their money and give up my time, which is much more precious, for somebody who's not really wanting to do this for the right reasons. And I think that's what's going to make us stand apart, is we're not necessarily we don't want to do the maximum number of people we can squeeze in. We, exactly as you said earlier, we want to do the maximum people that we can have an impact for. So it's not about us, it's about the impact, maximizing impact, not quantities, not enrollment numbers. We don't care about that. I don't care about that, because I work full time. I don't need to care about that.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, as much as my business mind says, how can this scale? And the reality is, this absolutely 100% will never, ever scale, which is exactly the point of doing it, because we need to give each person a highly individualized plan. So
correct.
I'm hoping that if you're interested in doing it, by the way, I think you can check out the site now. It's parsity.io/inner-circle to be a link in the description as well. And Zubin, you've been kind of using this approach for a while, which I really love, because one, I know that tech changes super fast nowadays. Faster, I feel like it gets a little faster every year. And it's really hard to keep up with things like curriculum, for example. And what is your approach and philosophy on coding curriculum in general? What do you think?
Great question. So it comes down to, and I've thought a lot about this, especially after that bootcamp experience, where, one of the instructors actually pulled me aside and said, look, man, here's the curriculum. You can do this on your own if you really were that serious, right? And him saying that to me made me realize that all they're doing is sort of wrapping accountability around it. But then I realized there's a lot more. You see, the problem that I had, for example, and this goes back to, my education, both in my MBA and my law school, the problem was that when the college had a fixed standardized curriculum, they were incentivized to and constrained to give me only that curriculum, even if it wasn't the best material available. And that's the important point. If things are moving really fast, it is highly unlikely that the one organization that trains people is also the organization that can maintain all the curricula individualized to each person. It's not going to happen. There's a reason why Airbus and Boeing don't manufacture their own engines, and they use a Rolls-Royce engine. They outsource the engine for the damn aircraft for a reason, because they're good at assembling it. They're not the ones engineering the engine. Right? They're good at assembling the plane and the logistics of it. And that's how I think of a career. It's an assemblage of skills we don't necessarily need to be the ones writing it. Because let's be honest, Brian, if you and I did, I don't know, a Python, JavaScript, Golang, whatever course,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not really going to be that different in content from anything else. Just like English is the same regardless of which textbook you learn it from. It's the same
Yeah.
damn language, right? So it's
Yeah.
not the
Totally.
textbook. It's not the textbook. None of us had college professors who were also the authors of the textbook, or maybe once in a while, but very rarely.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Very good point.
The college professors were there to teach us, not write the damn material. Right. And I think that's the trick. That's the trick here is we need to individualize it. We need to be free to not push our material. We need to pick the best available that year. And it changes every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
right?
it's wild, especially the React stuff in general. I've just been thinking about just React alone from 2022 to now. It's like
What are we, 18?
2019. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's like it's morphed into something almost unrecognizable. What do you
Totally.
say to people, by the way? There's a very vocal person online. I see them out on Reddit. They say, you could learn all this from just watching a million YouTube videos. You don't need to learn anything from anybody. Just go directly to YouTube and just learn it all. And here's the thing: I've actually seen this work out for a couple people. Like I know a couple people that this from what I can gather and me believing them that this worked out. But
Yeah.
this doesn't work out for most people. Why does this not work out? Why, if the information is so abundant nowadays, more abundant than it's ever been, why are less people able to get hired than they used to be?
Because we're conflating information with education. So, yeah, of course you can do it on your own, but are you going to? I mean, I could learn to grow cotton and sew t-shirts on my own.
This is true.
I could do that off the internet. I could grow my own food, right? I could do a number of things around the house, but I don't because I'm not crazy. Every place is walking distance if you have the time, man. I can walk to work if I want, but I drive or I take an Uber because that's crazy, right? What happens when it rains? What happens if you sprain your ankle? Like, this is not about can you do this? Of course you can. The question is, what's the optimized way for success? Okay, if you double your success rate, is that worth something or not? So sure, you can do it on your own. And I've met lots of people. So I've been teaching in the coding space for 4 years now. I've met at least a few thousand people who are learning to code. Less than 1% of them ever show up for an interview. That's a reality. But a lot of them learn to code. That's not the goal. The goal is not to learn. If the goal is to learn to code, great. Absolutely. Do what you want.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The goal is not to learn to code. The goal is, if your goal is career change and to get hired, now you got to think, how do I optimize for success? That's a different question. Yeah, you can do it on your own in theory, but you're probably not going to get any interviews. You're probably not going to get good enough to get any interviews, right? Can you learn anything on your own off the internet? Yes, you can. Are you going to? Probably not.
It's a really important mindset, like flip in general, because I think we've really moved past the stage of anybody can learn to code and just learn to code to thinking the career change. That's what I keep coming back to when I think about over all the years, because I've been working in boot camps in addition to being a software engineer for the last 10 years, basically. And I've met just hundreds of people in person, online that I've taught, mentored, and things throughout the years. Talked to over 1,000 people by this point at length about their own coding careers. And it's true. Coding is hard. And I never want to trivialize that ever, because I do understand that's a really difficult thing to do.
Right.
But the longer part of this, or the more important, significant piece, you're right, is the career change piece. Because there's so many people that know how to code that bomb interviews, can't even get to an interview. There's now a second order business that's based around just getting people interviews, because
it's a whole industry.
I've learned to code. Where's the money? Where's the bag they promised me? I learned how to, write a recursive statement. I mean, where's the $100,000 salary?
Every one of these stages is its own industry, right? Learning coding courses, whole industry, right? Getting to professional level skills, fine. That's kind of what bootcamps claim to be able to do. Then there's how do you actually go into the market and build the relationships and get, LinkedIn and stuff. There are LinkedIn courses. Then there's resume building courses. Then there's technical interview courses. Then there's behavioral interview courses. Then there's literally every step thing has courses and an entire industry around it. And what you and I are trying to do is say, you don't need 7 different vendors, if you like. You need to learn the whole thing together, right? At one time. And my gym instructor taught me this. He's like, I was like, I can't believe I'm paying you this much money. He said, to be honest, I can't believe you're paying me this much money either. Because, you can do all this on your own. right? And I'm
It's
like,
true.
yeah, but he's like, you could do all, you know what to do. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, except that you don't know everything you need to do to get the kind of body you do. You just think it's all about the gym. And I'm like, it's not. He's like, no, it's not. The gym is a very small part of it, right? Just like coding is a small part about becoming a coder, doing crunches and weights in the gym is a small part about body transformation.
Oh yeah, I remember working out for 7 years. I was actually going to do a podcast on this. People never want to hear me talk about exercise stuff, but I don't care. I worked out for 7 years. I went to this race, and I saw this dude next to me with his shirt off in the race, and he lost like by a lot, but he was ripped. And I thought, what's he doing that I'm not doing? 7 years here I am working out. I got sober, and I'm not looking like him. I got a trainer, and this trainer taught me in 3 months, got me on his like fitness page and looking ripped for the first time in my life at 37. And I was like, how did this happen? I had believed all these stupid things about not eating carbs or, eating in windows. And I was just working out in the gym, but I didn't have my diet in check. I didn't even know what having my diet in check meant.
Right.
I was just reading stuff. I don't know, carbs, intermittent fasting. And he just got me immediately into where I wanted to be in 3 months. I was like, oh, this is what I needed. 7 years, 3 months, more progress than I'd ever made.
And it's not doing the 10 extra crunches or the 10 extra miles. It's giving up that extra chocolate. That's the hard bit. Yeah, for me anyway.
Part. Yeah. For sure. For me, yeah, definitely. But
so it's not the coding. It's never just the coding. It's never just the coding.
100%. I'm excited to start working with people and doing this. I really cannot wait. I'm super excited to work with people doing this. And we're going to officially open this up. So if you're listening and you're the kind of person that is listening at this point in the episode, because I know from Spotify that the most engaged people are listening right at this point. If you're one of those people, I want you to schedule a call with me or Zubin, because the people that listen to this podcast tend to be the best fit for programs like Parsity or this program. They tend to be super engaged. They tend to have done a little bit of coding on their own. They know they need something. They're not quite sure where to go. I want you to schedule a call with us, see if you're a good fit for this program, and let's help get you to that stage in the new year.
Absolutely. And I want to say, Brian, also that we will also help you assess fit, because we don't want to pretend we can help you if we can't. I am 100%. Very, very particular about this. So it is possible that you may think this is great and we may not, and we will help you understand why and what you need to do instead. We will not pretend that we can help you if we cannot. Okay. But if we can, we will let you know, and then it's up to you. I'm really excited about doing this with you, Brian. I'm super excited because I think this is going to give a lot of you. Yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah. And also, are we since we're launching this new, I think we're doing some sort of promotional stuff as well, but it's all going to be on the website. So guys, just go to the web link that Brian talked about, which will be in the show notes, and you'll see, there's some sort of early bird promotion that we're doing for you guys as well.
That's right. Yeah, definitely want to get some people in there, give them a bunch of attention. So if you're one of the first few people in there, you're going to get a lot of kind of thing you like. If you don't, then maybe this is not the program for you.
Yeah, maybe not.
Hope you. Yeah, right. Yeah. Zubin, any last parting words for the audience?
I guess it's just, look, you guys, you're never going to be certain. You're never going to be feeling comfortable. And that's proof of growth. Okay. That's not the problem. That's proof of growth. If you are feeling really comfortable, that means you're not stretching enough. Okay. So if you're nervous, good. If you're anxious, good. We encourage that because that means you're normal and you know that this is not a walk in the park. Our job is to take away all the difficulty, stress, and anxiety for you, all the decision-making, and help you get there as fast as you can. It's an optimization game. Okay, that's all we're helping you with is an optimization game. So, hesitation's fine, but don't let hesitation change the course of your life.
And you are a wise dude. You need to write like a book of quotes at some point, because every time I talk to you, I come away with a few more quotes that I store in my memory bank.
God help us. Later. The bumper sticker guy. Zubin, the bumper sticker guy.
That'll be the next business right there. Thanks again, Zubin. Can't wait to have you on the show more often, and really excited to start working with you on this.
Absolutely, man. And thanks for teaming up with me. I'm so excited about this because I think we're the sort of people that the world needs at the moment to have a real view of what career change is like. And I think we're gonna help a lot of people.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. If you're serious about switching careers and becoming a software developer and building complex software and want to work directly with me and my team, go to parsity.io. And if you want more information, feel free to schedule a chat by just clicking the link in the show notes. See you next week.